welcome back to Megan Monday. Hopefully you had a great weekend. I want to give a quick shout out to the Muskie football team who ended their season on Friday. It was a tough loss up in Dubuque, but they fought hard all the way through. And, it was a season they can be proud of. I know everything didn't necessarily go the way they wanted, and, it was a trial of a year, no question. But I think they can all be proud of the season they put together, given the circumstances. And so we're kind of in this cool little space between seasons, at least in high school. We got a couple of weeks, but the 5th and 6th grade kids who, I don't know if you got to watch it. If not, go back and watch yesterday's 5th and 6th grade YSF childhood cancer awareness game that was played at the high school, and we got to broadcast it. Myself, Chuck Van Heck, and voice of the Muskies, Brian Musell, called the game, and it raised $500-600 for the Stead Family Children's Hospital. But man, it was a blast watching these kids. It was the two Muscatine teams. They play each other in practice every week. They got to play each other in a real full game, and it went down to the wire. These two teams are pretty evenly matched. Sometimes it's a blowout one way or the other. Most of the time it's pretty tight. They went into overtime 7-7. There was an interception. I'm not going to tell you who won, but go back and watch it and listen to Chuck Van Heck throughout the program, because one thing that you'll learn is Chuck's mean to me on a regular basis. He's my mentor, somebody I look up to. Just like they always say, folks, be careful of meeting your heroes. So, Chuck, that's for you. And the other thing, we have a traffic update. Apparently there was some sort of, I don't know if I got this quite right, it was just brought in by our new traffic reporter, who will have a full update on this later, I'm sure. But there apparently is a big pink gorilla that was in an accident on I-80 up near Iowa City. So I'm looking forward to getting more details on that when the fabulous Jessica Pfab hops on a little later. I have no idea, but I know it's going to be good. So how's that for a kickoff, Megan? That's like the most exciting Megan Monday there's been in a while.
That was exciting.
And the best part is, though, I think you've got something to talk about today that's actually just, it's not as funny, right? But it's more exciting and cool overall, I think.
Yeah.
So if you would, introduce yourself for those that may not know who you are, that one or two people out in Muscatine.
There are a lot of people who don't know me. So my name is Megan Francis, and I am the marketing director for Crossroads, which includes the programs of Senior Resources.
Gotcha. So you've got a fundraiser coming up, which is, and I say this as somebody who's in this arena, probably, I'm going to say the second coolest holiday tradition in Muscatine.
Right.
No,
There's
but
one
it's
on
going to be
December 1st. I know that.
Yeah. No. But you guys have come together and you went out and said, you know what, we need cool Christmas lights in Muscatine, and then you just kind of went off the deep end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you guys do?
Well, and it's very fitting that Jess is here today because she's my inspiration. So Crossroads will be hosting Illuminate, which is a holiday light show drive-through through Weed Park, Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve. Nightly drive through the park and see displays. Now, in the last 2 years, we know that the city has tried to do an event, Festival of Lights, asked businesses to come out and set up displays and collect food for the food banks. And it was a great idea, but it's very hard for some to have that resource to get someone out there, to pay for the lights, to set them up. And it's just a lot of work that goes into it.
And it's a lot of different people doing different things, and it can be hard to get a cohesive thing together.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity last year to go visit the Coralville Holiday Lights at the lake. And began to ask some questions about what it takes to put on an event and who the professional company that they're working with. And we decided that this was really the perfect awareness and fundraising event for Crossroads. So holiday lights really do touch everybody. You can have the youngest person in your family that's just excited about seeing the light, all the way up to grandma or grandpa, aunts and uncles, and especially in my arena, those suffering from dementia who you may be having a really hard time connecting with. But the feeling of holiday lights is something we all know and remember. And it really is about creating those moments of joy and that connection. So it is a level that really everybody can go through and connect together on. So for us, it was just a fantastic platform to be able to spread our mission of inclusion and choice for seniors and people with disability in our community. And then, I mean, what a great light experience.
Right, and it dovetails, you know, the holiday season is actually kind of tough in some ways as like an event person, because you've got Thanksgiving and then you've got Christmas. They're like 4 weeks apart. Everybody is super busy. You want to do things and you want things for people to do, but you've got to like balance it all. And that's what I love about how this works is literally any time over a month, you can go out. I mean, obviously at night because it needs to be dark, right? But, you know, and you just drive through. And I mean, I remember as a kid, we would drive around Muscatine and then also up to like the Quad Cities because, you know, back in the 80s, when I was a kid, there weren't these, you know, and so I think it's going to be great that we're going to have that in town because there are a lot of other organizations and businesses that do great Christmas displays. Like shout out to Members Community Credit Union, who will be like right on the outside of what you guys do. And so one thing that I think we're going to do, we've talked about it in the past, but it never really kind of came together is if somebody's doing a holiday light show at home, at their business, whatever, send it in to us. We're going to get a calendar and map put together so that everybody can see where they are, kind of like what we did for Halloween, which quick shout out, discovermuscatine.com/Halloween. You can see all the Halloween events coming up.
There's a lot of them.
There was 14, 15 the other day still left. Yeah. And you're already done with Halloween.
We had ours
I was going to say, how did it go?
It was fantastic. So we, in partnership with Faith United Church of Christ, we hosted a Halloween dance for people with disabilities and their family and friends. We had, sorry, just choked a little bit. We had at least 3 different organizations represented. Everybody came out. Of course, Tony Tone, fantastic job with the music. Cindy at the Rendezvous had fun Halloween treats, and we just danced for 2 hours, and it was the most fun.
Had he morphed into Ted Lasso yet?
No, we didn't see the Ted Lasso, but I'll tell you, that group can bring the Halloween costumes.
Really?
That was a legit group. We had like Pokemon, we had the Flintstones, it was fantastic. Beetlejuice was there, and the Joker. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. Okay, so now that, as far as you're concerned, Halloween's over. Halloween's over and done. Just skip it, cross it off, it's done, check it off. Back to Illuminate.
Yeah.
So you said that you've partnered, and I've gotten to see some of this, and you can see it at it's Crossroads, muscatine.org/Illuminate. Yeah. I always want to put Muscatine Crossroads.
Crossroads Muscatine.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yep.
And there's some info there, and there's going to be some more coming up here. We'll get some more of the lights up so you can see what the displays are, and also how you can be a sponsor and be a part of this. But what's cool is they bring 40-ish displays. Sponsors can pick one to display, and they can custom make stuff, I would assume. Not for this year. Not for this year.
Well, so we do have 2 custom pieces. We are committed to doing this for 3 years and have the opportunity to change out some of the displays. So you may see things, if you're a regular that goes to Mount Pleasant or Dubuque, you may have seen some of these in the past. But we have 2 custom light displays that have been made just for Muscatine. One of them is a replica of our bridge. And the other one, and I'm glad someone made me think about this early enough. We have Santa loading his sleigh with some elves, and they're loading watermelons. So probably getting all those melons ready to come to Muscatine.
Perfect.
And so known for our musky melons, and that one is also a custom piece. So
Gotcha. So how will this work for people? Because I know, obviously this is something Muscatine's never really done before.
Yep.
And so, Weed Park's like a big oval with a couple little mini ovals in it.
yeah.
Where will they come in? Is there a cost? Like what does it look like so people know what to expect?
Yeah, and I would say, follow our Facebook, we'll have posters out that will kind of give everybody
We'll have it too.
kind of a what to expect.
Yep.
But it will start the same route as the city's Festival of Lights went on. For snow removal, staying on the one side is smarter. So it will start up at the Rose Garden. I'm trying to get all the lingo right. I'm not a Muscatine native, and sometimes I say things and people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I think at the Rose Garden by Washington. And then
the main entrance. What is officially the main entrance?
Okay, good. I'm glad everybody's on the
by
same
the
page
cannon.
as me.
By the cannon, the Rose Garden. There is a gazebo in the Rose Garden.
See, I call it the gazebo, and people tell me it's not the right gazebo.
Right, because
There
often
are
when people
others.
think of the gazebo, they think of the band shelter, which you and I had that conversation.
Right.
But-
So that's where we're starting. It will come down the side. It kind of bumps in a little bit by the band shelter there, and then it will come back out by the Aquatic Center and lead out onto Colorado, where you can then enjoy Members Community Credit Union's Dancing Light Show.
So basically, it just goes down the right-hand side as you come in.
Yeah.
It's easy. The
There you
riverside.
go. Yeah.
Is there a cost?
Yeah. So all of our light costs are being covered by sponsors, and we're very thankful for all of our sponsors. We do have a few sponsorships open, so if anybody's interested, please get in contact with me. So we are having a suggested donation of $10 for each car that drives through. So if you have 5 people in that car, you have 2 people in that car, it's per car. And 100% of those proceeds will go to services for seniors and people with disabilities. And that is in thanks to our sponsors. So as you're giving, that is going 100% to helping those programs. And we run 6 service lines, assisting over 600 people throughout our community. So it's going to feeding seniors, it's going to rehabilitation services, supported community living, all of those residents that are part of our community, and helping them live their best life.
Yeah, this is, when you first told me about this, I'm like, this is perfect. And what I think is actually really cool about it is, you guys start Thanksgiving night,
Yep.
5:30,
Yep.
right? So it feels like any night you have a hole, you can do it. And what I love is, I'm going to be selfish here for a second. You didn't start it on December 1st when we do Jingle and Mingle, right?
Yep.
But what we're going to do is we're going to come up with some cool way. I haven't figured out exactly what it is, but like help people who are down here know, like, hey, when you get done, head out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's going to be cool how I think things like this and freezing for food and all that stuff, it can all work in together and make it a cool holiday all the way across the board.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of us that want to do cool things, and we're all pretty much on the same page most of the time anymore.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes it coordinate, which is nice.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, you guys will be at Jingle and Mingle too, right?
We will be at Jingle and Mingle. Yep. We're double dutying that night.
Yeah. If you need to volunteer on a Friday night, Megan's going to need help.
I will need help for anybody who's open.
So again, quick recap, Weed Park,
Yep.
Thanksgiving night through New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Starting at 5, and is it 5:30 every night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Through 9-ish?
8:30.
8:30.
Yep. And then a couple of things to note. We will close if there's inclement weather. So watch our Facebook. Just know if you're not advised to be out on the streets, if they're talking snow emergency on the streets, we also won't be open. But that's why we're also doing it for such a long period of time that we can accommodate all of those. If you're coming, realize that's also a neighborhood there. So we're keeping the line very, very short. So you may, need to come back around or look for a different time, and we'll try to keep notification of when some of those slower times are, so that, you know, if you really don't want to get your plans mixed up, that you know when some of those slower times are. So just watch all of our social posts and our website, and we'll keep all of that as suggested best practices, best ways
You
to
know what?
enjoy
We should
the
maybe
day.
create like a live cam on Discover Muscatine to see how long the line is, so people could just like hop on and check.
That's an interesting idea.
Just saying. I mean, you know a guy.
I know. That's an interesting idea.
Anyway,
Ah,
so yeah, go
the
do
things
it.
that'll happen on Monday morning when.
The things I open my mouth to. No.
Right.
So
What else are you going to volunteer for?
there's been plenty this weekend. I can guarantee you that. So thank you for stopping in.
Yes.
Obviously.
So I will tell you that the reason I came today instead of like next week or after is because our lights are going into the park this Sunday.
Yes.
Through November 1st. So you will start seeing those displays out in Weed Park. If you're wondering what's going on, this is what it's setting up for.
It's just Megan being Megan.
If you love to carry heavy things and you want to volunteer during those times, please also reach out. If you want to volunteer someone else who you think needs to carry heavy things, you can also do that.
Chuck Van Heck.
Right.
I will get you his number. He's at the Y right now, I'm going to bet.
But yeah, so we can use volunteers. It is heavy lifting. It's a lot of heavy, intricate work. So please reach out to me if that's something you're interested in, just so we can make sure that you're up for it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great job. I know it's going to be great. Everything Megan does is top notch. So no pressure, no high expectations set, especially if you're following after Jess's lead. You've got like your work cut out for
I know.
you. So on that note, we will be right back with Muscatine Community School District board member candidate Keith Gray.
It's time for an update from the Not So Late Show with Austin, brought to you by Unity Point Health.
Listen up, everyone. I've got some news. Things are still kind of crazy out there, and the pandemic is still going on. And it's hard to keep people healthy. And right now, things are really tough for healthcare workers. There are a lot of people needing help with their health. They're working very hard. They're tired. And they are working extra shifts. Well, that would be like when you just get right out of school. You have to go back and do it all over again. Ugh. So there's something you need to know. It's time to be kind. Healthcare workers are doing the best they can to help you. They just need your help too. Take care of yourself however you can with your vaccinations and your healthy habits. But if you get sick, go see your doctor. If you have to wait, be patient. Be a patient. They're real people just like you. And do you know why they're working so hard? For you. So show them a little love, or at least a little bit of kindness. That's one way we can all feel better. Okay, that's all I've got, everyone. Stay safe out there and remember to be kind to healthcare workers.
This has been a special update from the Not So Late Show with Austin. Good night. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Apparently, I was mistaken. The suspect is a large pink gorilla, something I don't know. Again, we'll have full updates just in a little bit. But until then, we're going to get serious for a moment. As part of our Discover the Candidates series, we invite each of the candidates for all of the local offices, school board, city council, mayor, to participate with us on a couple of levels. And so just so that everybody knows what they are, they fill out a questionnaire online that goes into our print and digital stuff. They have a formal interview, and then they also get invited on the Muscatine Today show for a more casual conversation to let people get to know them a little bit. And so Keith's here, Keith Gray, obviously.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, I think. It's Monday. It's a Megan Monday that's kind of gone off the rails over there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed.
Yep.
But, it's live local TV. What do you expect?
Yeah.
So if you would, for those that don't know you, introduce yourself and give them a little bit of your background, and then we'll jump
Sure.
into why you're running.
Sounds good. Yeah. So Keith Gray, my wife and I moved here with our family. We've got 6 children. We moved here in January of 2012. I work for John Deere, so been traveling or transferred around several times with Deere over my 23 years, and moved here, work in the Quad Cities, but we really liked Muscatine and really liked the schools and thought it would be a great fit for our kids. And so far, I've got 4 that have graduated through Muscatine High School, and I've got 2 that are in high school right now. Caden Gray, which thanks for the shout out at the football game. He injured himself in practice and had pretty major knee surgery on Friday.
Yep. How'd it go?
It went very well.
Good.
He's at home right now, and
he's watching Dad, right?
Well, yes, he is.
Of course, that's right.
He said, "Don't embarrass me."
No.
So, and then Brenna, our youngest, is a sophomore right now, and she's actually on the swim team. Just finishing up swimming right now. So, yeah.
So one thing that I'm going to say, just as an interesting concept, is we often talk about the number of people that work in Muscatine but don't live here, and you're just the opposite.
Correct.
Right? You chose to live here over being closer to Deere, and that's, what's funny is I think if we talk about it correctly, that's what should be happening, right?
Absolutely.
What made you guys, if you don't mind me asking,
yeah, absolutely.
What made you guys decide to kind of land here instead of closer to the?
Yeah, great question. So we looked at all throughout the Quad Cities. We looked up around Eldridge, DeWitt area, and just didn't find anything that really appealed to us. Also with 6 kids, kind of wanted something a little bit bigger. Actually, funny, kitchen table space. We wanted a bigger space for a kitchen table, and most houses today, the kitchen table space is actually quite small. And so we decided to expand our search. Someone suggested we come out to Muscatine, said it was a good community, and we came out here. We looked at the schools, and our kids are not star athletes, or they're not going to be the best in the plays or whatever, but we felt that in the Quad Cities, their ability to grow into themselves, if you will, from either an athletic or a talent standpoint would be a bit tougher because there's a lot more kids. And we felt Muscatine would provide a lot more opportunities, and that has proven absolutely true. Our kids have been involved with most of the sports, show choir, orchestra, all the plays. We've got fantastic drama department here, fantastic show choir department, or choir department with the show choir. We've been very involved with that for all of our kids, except Caden. He doesn't like to sing much. So, but every one of them have been involved with the choir department. So
awesome. And that's it's great to hear, because I talk about, and I think you and I even mentioned this when we talked, I have a unique position where I get to see almost every department as far as the activities go. We do stuff with the band, we do stuff with all the sports, we do stuff with choir, and so I see this huge variety of things that Muscatine is good at.
Absolutely.
But I don't know that everybody else gets to see that all the time.
Correct, yeah.
And so it's cool that you were able to come in and look at it and kind of see that same thing.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to run for school board?
Partly being involved so much with all the school activities. Also, my wife is a substitute teacher. She was a para-educator for a few years, and then finished up her degree, and then became a substitute teacher. So we have a lot of friends that are within the school district, and just hearing a lot of the kind of concerns and frustrations. There's a lot of great things about our school district, but there's also some concerns with some of the direction that we're going. Teacher accountability, or not teacher, the administration supporting the teachers, not teacher accountability, but teachers being supported has been a big concern with my wife and a lot of our friends. And I just felt that getting involved with the school board and trying to help our teachers feel like they're supported, but also help our students. I know, just as I've talked to my kids and some of their friends, just they question why do we need either certain classes, why do we need to do certain things, why are some of the requirements changing, what can we do to support our students as well. I think there's a lot of maybe apathy from certain students and parents, because they just don't really understand the value that Muscatine schools can provide for them. I think some students get a little discouraged that college seems to be pushed a lot, and man, there's so much more than college. One of the things that in my professional career, I manage 160 skilled trade technicians, engineering technicians, that most of them do like a 2-year or 4-year tech college, if you will, and boy, there's so many opportunities outside of the traditional college path that Muscatine does pretty well at, but I think we could do more to advertise that and help students as well as parents understand those different avenues, so that you don't have to go to college and get a lot of student debt. You can go and do a trade. You can become an electrician. You can become a welder. There's so many things that you can do, and the high school is a perfect breeding ground for getting kids in those paths.
Well, and one thing that you mentioned there, and this is something that I have to give kudos to the school district on, is education today is tough. We all know that.
Absolutely.
Right? You have core things, you have where kids want to go, and there's just this huge gamut of potential for these kids. And their goal is, and I'm going to slaughter this, but like every student's a success story, and the portrait of the graduate stuff, where each student kind of gets to kind of determine where they want to go, and it's not cookie cutter. But then that also creates an environment where communication is tough, because you do have a lot of options.
Absolutely.
And there's, how do you get every kid to engage and every family to engage, and then have the right information for them? And I mean, it's basically like mass customization of education. I've talked about that many times, and it's a learning process. And I think kudos to you for wanting to jump in and help kind of like navigate that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. And communication is key, and transparency is key, but also the administration also needs to understand what are those better ways to communicate. And I think they're doing a good job at that, and they're trying a lot of different things. And I would just like to help be a part of that, because I think one of the things, the strengths that I have, is looking at problems and solving problems and being very creative and innovative about how we solve problems. We can't continue to hammer the same nail the same way every single time. If it's not going in, we've got to try something different. Right. And we've got to use all of the tools that we have at our capability to help motivate and inspire all of our students as well as families.
So as you look at, the next couple of years for the district, obviously long term we look at things, but like over the next couple of years, what are some of the things that you feel are like top priorities that you want to make sure are addressed? So
first of all, ensuring that the administration is doing everything it can to support the teachers. And I think, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of good things the administration does, but there is growing frustration from the teachers and the staff about just the support and discipline, trying to figure that piece out, because that's where I think some of the teachers are very frustrated, is they just don't feel supported from a discipline standpoint. But yet we can't just throw the book at kids either. We've got to somehow figure out what are the root causes of some of the discipline challenges. I know that there's a lot of ideas been thrown out there. Some people have said we need to take cell phones out of kids' hands in the classes. That's a huge disruption. I somewhat tend to agree. I'm not exactly sure the mechanics of how we would go about doing that, or, I'm a person that likes as much freedom and liberty as possible, so it kind of seems against what I would believe in to say, let's take away the phones. But there's got to be some way to help our teachers feel like they can teach and not have to deal with behavior problems. And as well as there's a lot of students that are just kind of tired of the disruptions and they want to learn as well. So discipline is one, but how do we help support our teachers from a classroom standpoint? Also, just they're tired. They've got a lot going on, and they just want to do their job. They do a fantastic job, but they need to feel supported in that job. So again, supporting teachers, discipline is also another one. And then just some of the areas where we spend our money is also key. We've got a lot of projects that we've got going on, but are we spending that money in the right way, in the right places? One of the things that I've done also in my professional career is dealing with all the capital for our facility and expansion projects. And so I'm also qualified, I guess, if you will. We've got a lot of work going on here, but we need to ask the questions. Are we spending the money in the right places, on the right things? So those are kind of the three things that I want to really hit on. And then just transparency and communication. Getting ideas from people. Let's solve these problems together.
Yeah, and one thing that you kind of talk about there on capital, and this is something that's kind of like one of the things that I try and make sure that is out there is, facilities are tough, right? No matter how you cut it, facilities are tough. And, we have a bunch of schools that were all built in that same time period in the 50s and, some that are almost identical, right? And what that looks like, because the lifespan of a building is about 70 years. And, so we're pushing the end of life on a lot of these. And, what does that look like? Because I talked to somebody in the education field outside of Muscatine one time, and the way they kind of told me to think about it is like, okay, Chris, imagine you had because we were talking about like locals, like neighborhood schools versus big schools. He goes, Chris, think about it this way. If you had no schools in your district right now to start with, in your community, how would you build it? It wouldn't look like what you have now. And I'm like, whew, you're right, it wouldn't. Now, I mean, that doesn't mean tear them all down and start over. I'm not, but just, it's kind of another one of those ways to think about it is like, okay, if you were starting from scratch, what would it look like? Yeah. And, I don't know, I'm not saying I do, but I do know this probably isn't what it would look like. So.
Yeah, and it's always tough. A lot of it comes down to prevention too. So the facility where I work, was built in the 70s, but we've done a lot to it over the years, and that's part of it is just making sure that we're doing the right upkeep and we're spending the money properly and where it really needs to go. I know that that's one of the concerns that I've heard from a few is, boy, we seem to be spending money on things that, why are we doing that? Well, unfortunately, not everyone can be involved in all of the decisions and all the discussions, but I think trying to have as much of that communication as possible. And while people might not necessarily always agree in the end, hopefully there's a lot of respect because you at least talked about it and you discussed it and you threw out the pros and the cons. And again, you might not agree, but at least they feel part of the process.
Right. And that's, one thing, and that's kind of the whole point of our Discover the Candidates coverage is to get as much information out there as possible, to let people know how to be involved in the process if they want to be. But also if they aren't, to know that the process is happening and it's happening well and that you can trust the end result of it, right? Yeah. Because, my personal opinions never come into any of it. And what I love to see is two people who disagree on something, who may both have valid reasons for what they're believing. When you put those two in a room together, if they can be respectful and work towards a common solution, usually you can get a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of scenario. Not always, but oftentimes you can, and that's kind of the whole point of why we do this and why we give so many opportunities to the candidates. So thank you for being a part of all of it. And you're coming in tomorrow for your full interview. Correct. And our goal is to have those out for the school district candidates probably the end of the week to the first of next week, and along with some of the city council ones. So do you have anything else you want people to know before they start voting?
No, I just appreciate your vote. Early voting started last week, so you can get out there and early vote. Auditor's office by mail as well, and the election is November 7th, and just would appreciate your support.
Awesome. Well, Keith, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you.
And we will be right back after this with an update on a pink gorilla, but more importantly, and seriously, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so the ladies from Muscatine Radiology will be here talking about mammograms and prevention with us. So we'll be right back.
From a clogged toilet to a complete sewer line replacement, Rivo is a modern plumbing company designed to respond quickly to all shapes and sizes of plumbing needs. Bringing in our heavy equipment to replace cracked gas lines or designing clever piping systems for new construction plumbing, a family-owned company that's reliably honest and remarkably affordable. Right here in Muscatine, all day long, every day of the week. Rivo Incorporated, skill, knowledge, and tools to solve the messiest problems. clogged toilet to a complete sewer line replacement, Rivo is a modern plumbing company designed to respond quickly to all shapes and sizes of plumbing needs. Bringing in our heavy equipment to replace cracked gas lines, or designing clever piping systems for new construction plumbing, a family-owned company that's reliably honest and remarkably affordable. Right here in Muscatine, all day long, every day of the week. Rivo Incorporated, skill, knowledge, and tools to solve the messiest problems.
And welcome back, and we have an update. So what some of you may not know is today is, Chris, what was it? National Talk Show Host Appreciation Day? Talk Show Host Day, yep. Talk Show Host Day. And so I looked to my guests, some of which are friends that I've known quite a while, and I said, oh, so I'm assuming you guys have something great for me for today, right? Yeah, and here's what I got.
Well, the text just came through. We did have, we ordered this big pink gorilla to bring balloons in the middle of our segment, and unfortunately he got stuck in some traffic, a horrible accident on I-80, and so he's not going to be able to make it today, Chris. I'm so sorry.
So tomorrow, the pink gorilla will be here.
If he makes it out okay.
Okay.
He'll be here, maybe, yes. So I haven't gotten any updates yet.
My journalistic curiosity is piqued at how she's going to get out of this one.
Is that a nice way of saying that the BS meter went off a little bit, or?
It went off. It pegged. It pegged instantly. Okay, so now all the joking aside, if you two would introduce yourself for those that may not know you, and kind of a little bit of what you guys do at Muscatine Radiology.
Sure. Well, my name's Jessica Pfab, formerly Whitman. Got married in the spring, so that's exciting. I am the corporate liaison / marketing director for Muscatine Radiology and our sister clinic, Corridor Radiology in Coralville.
Gotcha.
My name is Lexi Reed, and I'm the mammographer here at Muscatine Radiology. Went to X-ray school in Scott Community College, was an X-ray tech for about 5 years, and now I've gotten into mammography, which I'm very glad I did.
And we love her, and she's wonderful.
She's been wonderful for a long time. And this was so funny, just before we came on, I looked at Lexi, and I was going to say something, and I paused for a second, and just goes, Lexi, to tell me her name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's see, I've known her since she was probably, I don't know, somewhere in this neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So I had that part. I was just totally confused in general.
I can't do anything. There's no silences in my life. I'm like, oh,
I paused to think, which, and now I know everybody's like, you never pause to think. What are you talking about? But, so obviously.
Can I grab your mic?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So as we fix that, obviously it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so you guys, we had. I didn't get to tell you guys about this before. So since you guys don't have a mic and can't say anything, I'm going to tell this story now real quick, because then you can't say, "Wow, that's stupid." Go out on TikTok. I mentioned this the other day when we were talking out at Unity Point. There's a kid who does this. It's a young man, probably early 20s, who does this bit about mammography, and a mammogram, and he plays it off as if he knows nothing about it. And a young man, he's like, wait, you do what? You throw your boob up a thing, and then they smash it like a sandwich? It's like a metal boob sandwich. It's actually the funniest thing.
I bet. And
because sometimes we talk about very serious topics, and for a lot of people, the way they handle that, myself included, is humor, right? Yeah. As if I joke through this, please don't take that, folks out there, as disrespect or anything else. It's just how you cope with serious situations sometimes, right? Yeah. So I'll make sure I send you guys that link, because it's absolutely hilarious. It's somewhat kind of got the guy's point of view, which as I go through this month and we talk about a lot of this stuff, the one thing I try and do, obviously, I let you guys take the woman's perspective, but what I try and do is say, okay, most guys have a significant woman in their life that this applies to, whether it's a mom, a wife, a daughter, depending on their age. And so we should know about this, right? And we should know how we can support. We should know what they're expecting, what they're experiencing, what their fears should be. And so, again, if you hear me talking about the guy's perspective, it's not to take away from the woman's, it's just to add on and sort of give a full perspective for everybody. So Holy cow, that was a lot. Do we have a working mic now? We good? All right,
I'm
awesome.
sorry everyone didn't get to hear all those wonderful things that he said before. But,
Yeah.
and I'm really going to try to let Lexi speak. But since you've mentioned breast cancer and men, I think it's really important to know that men do get breast cancer. In fact, if you have breast tissue, you are susceptible to breast cancer. Unfortunately, with men, it's more deadly than with women because they tend not to catch it, because they think they can't get breast cancer. So if you are a male and you're feeling any type of lumps, bumps, pain, please know you will get a mammogram. You will come in and it will be automatically a diagnostic mammogram. Lexi, how many mammograms on men do you feel you do in a year?
Not very many, honestly. It's usually only for men that have lumps. We don't do, like a typical screening on men. So I think, that could be definitely something to look forward to in the future. But yeah, it's mainly just for lumps for men. And we do about maybe, I think since I've been a mammographer, I've done about three guys. So it's not a lot.
It's not a lot, but it's also more than you might think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's enough that it's, pay attention to it. So, as you look at, we kind of have this, let's see how well I was listening last week. So, was it about 35-ish start doing preventative or screening mammograms?
Yep.
And earlier if there's a history, right?
So 35 typically is the earliest that they will do one. If you have a lump or something, they'll do like an ultrasound or something. But as far as mammogram wise, you don't typically start until you're about 35, and that's being high risk as well. So.
Gotcha. And so obviously it's, I think somebody mentioned, and Melissa laughed when I said this, like do it on your birthday. Maybe not necessarily on your birthday, but maybe like use that as a trigger to help remember, because it's an annual thing, obviously,
Definitely.
right?
Every year, yeah, we try to, make sure that we have like call lists that we call back people, and we want them to get in to get their mammograms that haven't been in for this year, or even if it's been a little over a year, we just give that friendly reminder to, hey, come on in and see us. So.
Yeah, and so at 35 years old, that's when somebody would get their baseline mammogram, and that basically means the mammogram that we compare all mammograms for the rest of time to, right? So usually...
So that's the one you want to study for and really be ready for?
You really want to get that one right, yeah.
Got it.
But
Yeah, okay.
breast tissue does change throughout time. So starting at 40 is when we really start saying a woman should be getting their annual screening mammogram. And we actually, I love that you mentioned the birthday thing, because we send out 40th birthday cards to people to say, happy birthday, come get your mammogram.
Wow. Okay, at least I'm not the only one that's funny about this stuff. But like, it's a serious thing, and obviously, but now like if you're in the age bracket before that, you still should be doing like the self-examinations, correct? And so this is one thing that I think often, at least from what I hear, obviously I'm not the target audience, but I think this maybe gets kind of a little lost past the mammogram, is like, because Melissa does her checks regularly, and every once in a while, it's like, hey, would you feel this? And, I'm like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but like, and so what's interesting is like, what are you feeling for? Like, I think, okay, a lump. Well, what's a lump feel like? Is it a pea? Is it a rock? Is it like, what is it as women are doing those, well, actually men too for that matter. What is it that they're feeling for?
So, it can vary. It can be as small as a pea. It can be as big as a quarter. It can be baseball size. There's, it just kind of depends on.
I would think you would notice a baseball size before doing a self-check, wouldn't you?
You'd think, yeah.
You would think.
But
okay.
a lot of times things are missed.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people with dense breasts out there. Not sure if you know what that means, but just dense breast
No,
tissue,
but-
which is just like lumpier and bumpier, which is completely normal as well. But again, it hides a lot of the lumps and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's a really great website out there that's called Know Your Lemons, and they do a really great job of illustrating the different types of lumps and bumps that are out there. But truly, you're going to be your own advocate, because you're going to know when something feels different. Or I'm glad that she says, hey, can you feel?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for men to be aware too.
And that's sort of what like leads me to that male perspective, because like I remember the first time she asked me to do that, because her family has a history of breast cancer and stuff, so she started watching it early, and I don't remember when. I want to age is. She is in the age where she's in the annual thing anyway, but I know she was doing it before that because of the history and stuff like that. And so, I remember the first time she asked me, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. As a guy, like I'm like. Not that I'm not willing to help or anything, but it's just like, how am I going to tell? You know what I mean? Like that was like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'll feel around, but I don't know what I'm looking for, right? And so, like, she took the time, like she does with me often, and kind of caught me up.
She is a patient.
She is.
Patient woman.
She is. No, but I mean, she's like, okay, feel this, and I don't know if it was know your lemons, but I mean, she showed me like a thing, and I'm like, okay, here's what you're feeling for, and I'm like, all right, okay, so then it's like a serious little, and it's like, okay, and she's like, okay, remember what that feels like, you know what I mean, so that, it's just an extra set of eyes and hands on a situation just to get extra perspective. So
That's great.
I thought it worked really well, and I mean,
Some lumps and bumps can be normal as well. There are like cysts and lymph nodes that kind of swell and seem to show up in mammograms as well. So we like to let people know that too, that not every lump and bump is bad. But again, you'd rather be safe than sorry and get it checked out. So.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's, one thing that we talk about often across all of the medical stuff, and then also just anything. If you're sitting at home right now and you are like even remotely thinking that this is something that applies to you, that means it probably does, right? And the first step is always the hardest. You're sitting there going, should I, shouldn't I, I'm busy, whatever. Just take that first step. These guys, when you call, first of all, do they have to get a referral to come to you guys?
So for screening mammograms, not usually, unless they have certain insurances. But again, we make sure we can call the doctor's office, get the order. But when it becomes diagnostic, yes, we have to have an order from their doctor.
Yep.
A lot of OBs send them over, family doctors, just kind of really any doctor.
So again, just pick up the phone and call. Yes. You know what I mean? And we talked about this with like Unity Point. They have like the cancer care coordinators down the road. Like, there's people trained to help you through these situations, whether they've been through it themselves or not. They're around it all day, every day. You're not, and as bad as this may sound, you're not the first one to go through this. You're not the first one to be worried like this. It may feel like you are, but you're not. And so what's good about that is that means people have experience helping people deal with what you're going through, right? It doesn't make it any easier, right? Like it doesn't make it, well, I shouldn't say that. It doesn't make the like academic medical part easier per se, but it does make the mental part significantly easier. Yeah, knowing you've got a team around you that knows what they're doing, and so you can take a breath and relax knowing that they've got it, right?
And I think mammograms are really scary for a lot of women anyways. They come in kind of like, oh my gosh, I have to do this again. And, I've heard it all the time. And, I like to be that person to make them feel comfortable and, help them through that process. And then, when they're done, they're like, oh my gosh, that's it. And I'm like, yeah, I told you, it's no big deal. We can get through this together.
Well, if I can just mention that too, and brag on Lexi a little bit, is she is just such a personable person that it makes it easier to come in and be able to do an exam that's very intimate, right? Yeah. She is handling your breasts. It's what happens. And our clinic is designed to already reduce anxiety just by the way it's designed and developed in the things we do in there. But we also have this really cool paddle. Like when you were talking about the kids saying that, right?
Yeah.
We actually have a paddle called the Smart Curve paddle, and it's designed to fit the shape of a woman's breast. So when you think of compression, we don't want anyone to think of it like cranking down. And in fact, when I had my first mammogram, I was ready for it to be like lower the boom. And I was like, and then it happened, and I'm like, wait a second. I am so mad at every woman who's ever gone and told their friend, it was the worst experience of my life. Because when you do that, you're talking somebody out of what could possibly be a life-saving screening exam.
Right. You're definitely right. And I think, again, I have no perspective, and I want to make sure I'm clear that I get it.
Yeah.
But like, as I've heard people talk about it, and then even jokingly, listening to that video, it's like, oh, okay, it's a real thing. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds, but not that I didn't think it was a real thing, but you know what I mean? Like, you've got to put pressure, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? But the thing that actually made me feel better about watching it that way is, and just even some of the comments, is like, okay, if they're being funny about it like that, they're exaggerating it for effect, right? So if they're saying, and this is just me overanalyzing everything I watch, like why, but like, no, seriously, like, so if it's funny because they're exaggerating, it's funny because it's not true, right? So if they're doing this and they're like talking about, what that really means is it's not that bad, right? And so remember that when you hear things like that is, the perspective of the person saying it should help you gauge what they're, so. interesting little perspective.
Yeah, and I think, breast cancer affects 1 in 8 women, right? And as much as I think anytime that you can start a conversation and make people aware, it's good. And although breast cancer itself is very scary and it's not funny, it is important to be able to talk to people or meet people where they're at, just to make sure they know how important anytime your insurance company says we're going to pay for you to do this specific thing
right.
once a year, you do it. You know what I mean?
That's actually a very, you know what? I think I've danced around that phrase 1,000 times in my life, but that is the simplest way of saying it. Like, think about it. Everybody complains about insurance companies not paying for things and not doing this because all my physician friends, I do not want an email on this. I'm going to tell you this right now.
Kick that girl off.
No. What I'm saying is, like, they have a hard time getting things they need. And sometimes, like, but insurance companies do know things that help overall, right? And if they're sitting here going, okay, we're willing to spend the money on this each and every time because we know it's going to save us money in the long run, run with it, right? Like, don't argue. Know you have to do it and just get it done.
Colonoscopies, DEXA exams, any of those screening things, and what's the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? That is legit in this case.
And it goes across every guest from Unity Point. Every practitioner says the same thing, whether it's veins, whether it's dementia, whatever it is, they all say, just pay attention, take care of yourself, right? You don't have to go off the deep end, but just make sure you're paying attention, right?
It can be life-saving.
Absolutely. So, we should touch real quick on why you are Megan's idol. Let's talk.
So here's the deal. Megan is a brilliant woman, and she's got the biggest heart, and she really works her tail off to make Muscatine a wonderful place to be. And when I was hearing you guys talk earlier, I was just thinking, like, Muscatine is going to be the most enchanting, wonderful Hallmark movie town I've ever seen in my whole life.
That was our goal. Real quick side note. When we took over the stroll a couple years ago, I remember we were sitting here in the office and I said, here's the thing. We're only going to do this if we feel like we can make it like a Hallmark movie. Not the first year because we had like 3 weeks, but like that was my thing is if we're going to do it, that's our goal.
Well, and if I can be so bold to say, I'm assuming that the holiday stroll has grown year after year because Muscatine has come and supported it and helped you breathe life into it. So if there's anything I could say to anyone, it's give Illumination a chance, because Megan has worked really hard to put together a really cool display. But the thing about that is the more positivity you breathe into it, the more people embrace it and come and like make it their family tradition, the bigger it's going to grow every year. And growing up doing this in Dubuque as a kid, going through Reflections in the Park, that obviously had so much impact on me and my family with tradition. It shows that there is a lot of value in things like the holiday stroll and Illumination. And I'm so excited for Muscatine. Like, it's just, I can't wait myself to make a weekend of it. And like I said, Megan's just a really like wonderful, beautiful person. And
so she still deflected away from herself. Did you notice that, folks?
Who?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
What is it that you
so I'm part of the group that arranged holiday lights at the lake in Coralville.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's thank you. Sorry, I can't even take when somebody's like feeding me something because Holiday Lights at the Lake is a fundraiser for the Birdhouse Hospice Home of Johnson County, and we started that 3 years ago as a double thing, a new fun holiday event that is good across all generations. It can withstand a pandemic. It can. We've had people who are autistic come through. We've seen families of all generations packed into a car. I'm sorry, sheriff's office or whatever, but we've even had like trucks come through with families and bundled up in blankets, like in the back of the truck, and it's just really fun to see.
It's a modified hay rack ride.
Hay rack ride, yes, modified hay rack ride. Say that. That's like how we warmed up today. So it's Holiday Lights at the Lake has been wonderful, and I'm so excited for Muscatine to have something like it as well. And like I said, you could go to all of the different drive-through light displays, and you're gonna find something unique and different in every one of them. And so, thank you for letting me plug that.
Yeah, no problem. That's kind of what we do here, right?
Yeah, well,
So, before we go, a quick recap. Basically, if you're a woman, let's call it 35 and older,
Okay,
right? Call them. If you don't have a thing in place, just stop what you're doing right now, type in Muscatine Radiology, the phone number pops up on Google, I know I've done it.
It sure does, yeah.
And you just push the button and somebody nice on the other end will answer,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's really,
I will say, everybody that works at that clinic, aside from me, is very nice. I might be a little sarcastic and grumpy sometimes, but they're all great. Yeah.
They are all great.
I can think of one, never mind. No, so again, pay attention to the pink. Remember why the pink is there, right? It's not just to look pretty. And the other thing that I thought was really cool about the football game yesterday with the 5th and 6th graders, probably about 3/4 of them were wearing bright pink socks.
Oh, I love that.
And it just, and like for White, he's like, yeah, they look awesome. Like nobody cares. It looks cool, and it's and they know what it is, 5th and 6th graders. So like,
Support.
that's right. So that's hopefully, by the time they're old like me, this is even less of a concern because we've gotten ahead of it.
By the time they get to be your age, maybe we'll be so medically advanced that we've eradicated all cancer. I mean, they've got 40 years or something. Just look at what
We
happened
can only
with
hope.
the iPhone. No, I'm kidding. I had to.
Says the woman who is still going to be getting me a pink gorilla in the next 24 hours.
Hey, you never know.
Is there anything else you'd like people to know, Lexi, before we
Nope, just
call it a day?
come on in and see me, get your screening mammograms done. Even if you think there could be a possible problem, talk to your doctor, get in.
Yep.
Rather be safe than sorry. Nowadays, we have such early detection that our machines are awesome. They can really find things really early on, and there's a lot of survivors out there. So.
Yeah. Yep. And shout out to those that have survived. I know a couple. You know who you are. I won't call you out, but yeah. So with that, of course, thank you guys for coming down
Thank you
anytime.
for having us.
We do appreciate the opportunity to, get to talk about, to get to talk about this type of stuff locally. So thank you so much for all the value you provide to the community here. It's so important to have a spot where people can talk about things happening locally. And that interview with the school board candidate was brilliant. And even I learned a little something. So thank you for having us and for being here. It's very
I
important.
enjoy it. Thank you guys. With that, folks, we'll call it a Megan Monday. We'll put a pin in this one.
The best Monday ever.
we will see you tomorrow. And until then, remember to go attack the rest of the day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.